Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I know a lot of you are interested in, pull-ups. We're going to be digging into an episode from the fitness podcast, Mastering Pull-Ups, Build Upper Body Power Without Pain. And I've got to say, even I learned a thing or two from it. So get ready to learn not only how to do a pull-up, but why they're such a powerful exercise. And maybe even uncover some mistakes that you've been making. So by the end of this, you're going to be able to picture yourself confidently conquering that pull-up bar.
Yeah. I'm excited to unpack this with you. Pull-ups are one of those exercises that seem so simple, but have a surprising depth to them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I have to start with this fact from the podcast that blew me away. Pull-ups work way more than just your arms. They hit your lats, biceps, rhomboids, traps, even your core. Seriously, your whole upper body is involved.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating about this is that pull-ups build what's called functional strength. You're not just isolating muscles, you're developing strength that translates to real-life movements.
Yeah.
Like imagine needing to pull yourself up over a wall or climb a tree. That's functional strength in action.
I love that. So it's not just about looking good at the gym, it's about being able to move through the world more powerfully.
Yeah.
And this whole concept of relative strength that the podcast talked about is really interesting too. It basically means like your strength, but relative to your body size.
Right. It makes pull-ups a fantastic equalizer because they're all about you versus you. It doesn't matter if the person next to you is bigger or smaller. You're both working against your own body weight.
Right. It takes the pressure off of having to compare yourself to others, which could be so discouraging sometimes. So let's get into the nitty-gritty here. How do we actually do a pull-up? The podcast lays out a step-by-step guide, but I was especially intrigued by the part about the active hang. What's going on there?
The active hang is crucial. It's more than just grabbing the bar. You actively engage your shoulders by pulling them slightly down and back, which creates tension. And this sets you up for a strong and safe pull-up. If you skip this step, you're limiting your ability to properly activate the right muscles.
Gotcha. So it's about setting the foundation for the entire movement, not just brute force. That makes a lot of sense. And then there's the actual pull.
Right. The pull should initiate with your AC muscles, those powerful lats pulling the shoulder blades down and back. And then you bend your elbows, driving your chest toward the bar while keeping your core engaged the whole time. And no swinging those legs.
The goal is to get that chin over the bar right. What I found really interesting is how much emphasis the podcast puts on the descent, that controlled lowering. Why is that so important?
Because that's where so many people go wrong. They get so focused on the upward motion that they just rush or even drop down, missing out on a crucial part of the exercise. Controlling the descent builds strength through the entire range of motion and helps prevent injury.
It's like a slow, controlled lengthening of the muscles under tension, rather than just letting gravity take over.
Exactly.
Now, I'll be honest, pull-ups are tough. I think a lot of people, myself included, need to build up to that full pull-up. And that's where the podcast discussion progressions comes in. I think these progressions are really cool. It's like leveling up in a game, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The progressions provide a roadmap to help anyone work their way up to a full pull-up step by step.
So where do we even begin?
Well, it all starts with a simple hang, what's often called a dead hang. You just grab the bar and engage your shoulders in that active hang position we just discussed, and just hold on for like 20 to 30 seconds.
Yeah, just hanging. That doesn't sound too difficult.
It's deceptively challenging. Those 20 to 30 seconds build significant grip strength and shoulder stability, which are essential for everything that comes next.
Wow, okay, so even the starting point has a purpose. I see how these progressions are like building blocks. So what's the next level after that?
From there, we move on to scapular pull-ups. These are all about isolating and strengthening the muscles that initiate a pull-up. So you're hanging from the bar and simply pulling your shoulder blades down and back without bending your elbows. It's a subtle movement, but a powerful one.
So it's like you're prepping those muscles to take on the full pull-up motion later on.
Precisely. And then we progress to negative pull-ups, which are a great way to start building strength in the actual pulling motion.
Okay, tell me more about those. I've heard the term, but I'm not exactly sure what they involve.
So with negatives, you start at the top of the pull-up position. You can jump up or use a box to get there. And then you slowly lower yourself down, controlling the descent as much as possible. It's that controlled descent that builds the strength needed to eventually pull yourself up.
So it's like you're practicing the second half of the movement. Seems like a smart way to break it down. But what if someone still can't do a full negative pull-up? Does that mean they're stuck?
Not at all. There are a couple more progressions that can help bridge the gap.
Let's hear them. I'm starting to see how this is like unlocking new levels in a game.
Yeah, so before we jumped into those progressions, you're asking about what happens when someone can't quite do a full negative pull-up yet.
Right. It's all about those extra steps. What comes after those negatives?
Exactly. We got a couple more tricks up our sleeves. One option is assisted pull-ups. You can use resistance bands or even like an assisted pull-up machine at the gym to make the movement a bit easier while still practicing that full range of motion.
Oh, okay. So you're getting that full movement pattern down, but with a little help to build up that strength. It's like training wheels for pull-ups. What else?
Another great progression is inverted rows. These are done on a horizontal bar. You lie underneath it and pull your chest toward the bar. It's a fantastic way to build overall pulling strength, but using like a slightly different angle.
Okay, so we've got this whole system here. Dead hangs, scapular pull-ups, negatives, assisted pull-ups, inverted rows. It really is like a step-by-step guide to pull-up success.
And the beauty of it is that anyone can use this system, regardless of their current strength level. It's all about finding the right progression for you and then consistently working at it.
I love that. It makes pull-ups feel way less intimidating. But I have to admit, even with all these progressions, there's still a part of me that wonders, like, why even go through all this effort? Like, why are pull-ups so special?
That's a great question. And you know, the podcast actually touched on this. It talked about how pull-ups are more than just a physical exercise. They build mental strength too.
Okay, tell me more about that. I can definitely see how something as challenging as a pull-up could push you mentally.
Well, think about it. When you're struggling to get your chin over that bar, you have to dig deep, push past your perceived limits, and keep going. That builds resilience, determination, that can-do attitude.
You're proving to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought you were.
Exactly. And that sense of accomplishment, of conquering something you once thought was impossible, that's incredibly powerful. It builds confidence that can spill over into other areas of your life.
I love that the mental strength you gain from pull-ups can actually make you a more confident person overall. It's not just about the physical transformation, it's about the mental transformation too.
Precisely. And that journey of transformation, it can continue even beyond mastering that first pull-up. The podcast talks about all these awesome variations that you can try once you've got the basics down. It's like opening up a whole new level of the game.
Oh, variations. Tell me more about those. What kind of moves are we talking about?
Well, one of the most popular variations is the chin-up. Instead of an overhand grip, you use an underhand grip with your palms facing you.
Ah, so that's the difference between a pull-up and a chin-up. I always wondered about that. Are chin-ups any easier? I feel like I've heard that somewhere.
They do tend to target the biceps a bit more, and for a lot of people, their biceps are stronger than their back muscles. So yeah, they can feel a bit easier for some, but they're still a fantastic exercise.
So it's not a cheat version, it's just working a slightly different muscle group.
Gotcha.
What other variations are there?
Then you've got wide grip pull-ups, where you basically widen your grip on the bar. This shifts the focus even more to the upper back and lats. If you're looking to build that V shape, wide grip pull-ups are your go-to.
I can see how changing your grip would target different muscles. Are there any variations that are especially challenging? I'm feeling inspired to push myself here.
Oh, there are definitely some that will test your strength and control. Archer pull-ups, for example, are a real challenge. You basically shift your weight to one side as you pull up, extending the opposite arm out to the side. It's like you're drawing back a bow and arrow.
Wow, that sounds intense, both for your arms and your core.
Yeah.
Are there any variations that involve adding weight?
Absolutely. Once you've mastered all the other variations, you can start adding weight to really amp up the challenge. You can use a weight belt or even hold a dumbbell between your legs.
It's amazing to think about that progression. Starting with a simple hang and eventually working your way up to weighted pull-ups. But before we get too carried away with all these advanced moves, the journey starts with a single step, or rather a single hang.
Exactly. It's about embracing the process, starting where you are and consistently working toward your goals. And the great thing is, even just hanging from a bar for a few seconds each day can start to build that foundational strength.
I love that reminder. It makes the whole idea of mastering pull-ups feel a lot more approachable.
It is approachable. And remember, it's not just about building physical strength. It's about building mental resilience and confidence too.
Well said. Okay, so we've covered the how and the why of pull-ups. Are there any other insights from this podcast that you think are worth highlighting? Anything that really stood out to you?
One thing that really stood out to me was all the talk about form and technique. It's not just about muscling your way through it.
Yeah.
Proper form ensures you're getting the most out of the exercise and minimizing the risk of injury. Quality over quantity, always.
Absolutely. Like you were saying earlier about engaging those lats, it's not just about pulling with your arms.
Exactly. It's about initiating that movement with those powerful back muscles. A lot of people try to use their arms too much, which can just lead to fatigue and even strain.
Right. And what about that tip about keeping your neck neutral? It's almost counterintuitive, but leading with your chest instead of like reaching with your chin, it really does make a huge difference.
Yeah, it does. So many people crane their necks forward, which can lead to all sorts of strain and discomfort. But if you think chest to bar, it helps maintain proper alignment and protects your neck.
I'm definitely guilty of that. Speaking of things we should avoid, the podcast also had some great advice about shoulder pain. I know that's something a lot of people worry about with pull-ups. What were some of the key takeaways there?
Well, warming up properly is obviously crucial, but beyond that, it's about addressing any underlying mobility issues that might be contributing to that pain.
So, like if someone has trouble fully extending their arms overhead, that could be a sign of tightness in their shoulders or even their thoracic spine.
Exactly. Those limitations can affect your form and potentially lead to pain. So it's definitely worth taking the time to work on those areas, maybe with some targeted stretches and mobility exercises.
So it really all comes back to that idea of functional strength that we talked about. It's not just about brute force, it's about moving well and having that mobility to perform the exercise correctly.
Precisely. And the podcast really emphasized this too. The importance of listening to your body. If you're experiencing pain, don't just push through it, back off, assess your form, and maybe even go back to an earlier progression until you build up the necessary strength and mobility.
Such good advice. It's so easy to get caught up in that goal of, doing that full pull-up,
Right.
that we kind of forget to listen to our bodies along the way.
Yeah. And speaking of goals, one thing that really stuck with me from this podcast was how much they emphasize the mental side of pull-ups. It's not just a physical challenge.
Right. It takes a lot of mental toughness to keep going when your muscles are burning and you feel like you can't do one more rep.
Exactly. It's about pushing through that discomfort, overcoming those mental barriers, and proving to yourself that you are stronger than you think. And that can build a level of resilience and determination that I think can really benefit you in all areas of your life.
It's like building mental muscle along with physical muscle. I love that. It makes sense that the podcast would end with a challenge for the listener.
Yeah. Remember what they said? Just hang from the bar today.
So simple, yet so powerful.
Yeah.
A reminder that the journey to mastering pull-ups starts with a single step, or rather a single hang.
And it's a reminder that anyone can start this journey. It doesn't matter if you've never done a pull-up in your life. Just find a bar, grab on, feel that grip strength, engage those shoulders, and imagine the possibilities.
I'm feeling inspired, and I hope our listeners are too. So there you have it, folks, our deep dive into mastering pull-ups. Inspired by the Mastering Pull-Ups, Build Upper Body Power Without Pain podcast. We covered a lot today. From the basics of proper technique to those progressions and variations, and even the mental aspects of pull-ups.
Yeah, we explored why pull-ups are such a great exercise, how to build up to them safely and effectively, and how they can benefit you physically and mentally. We even busted some myths along the way and learned from others' mistakes.
And most importantly, we've been encouraged to start our own pull-up journey, to challenge ourselves, and to believe in our own potential.
So what are you waiting for? Go find a bar, get hanging, and see where this journey takes you. You might be surprised by what you can achieve.
I love it. That's all for this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep reaching for those bars.